their stamina. I've gained a great appreciation for their work over the last couple of years. They've needed that stamina, Lord knows, over the past 2 years. And I want to say to those who are here and those who aren't, but I hope my message will be conveyed to them as well, that I've enjoyed our adult relationship with one another over these past 2 years and getting to know you in a different way than I did when I was just a resident coming in to ask questions and talk about things. So thank you very much for your professionalism. I reflected on the accomplishments of this council at the March meeting. As I noted then, we've had many successes, some lost opportunities, and there is work yet to be done, which I trust the next council will give its attention to. I'll turn my attention after the election to other opportunities to influence quality of life in the village, in Montgomery County, and in Maryland, to more time with my wife, my children, and grandchildren who have been nagging for more time, and to pursuits which will reward me differently. Time passes quickly at my age, and I must be prudent investing it for the greatest return. I'd like now to give the other 4 council members who will not be running for election a portion of what would be my time tonight to reflect on their experiences and services. So let me turn first to Mayor White. Mayor White?
Thank you, Bobby. Just briefly, I'm not sure how I can sum up 32 years of service in a couple of sentences, but I am extremely grateful to the people of Friendship Heights who gave me an opportunity to act on your behalf in so many capacities. I started in 1993 and never dreamed that I would still be doing this in 2025, but it has been the experience of a lifetime, and as Bobby alluded, it's the relationships with people that are the most important. Properties come and go, they're developed, they're undeveloped, ordinances will be changed, but really it's your relationship with people that is the most important thing. So I thank the fellow council members that are here tonight and those that I served with previously, and I am deeply appreciative for the opportunities that Friendship Heights gave me.
Thank you, Mayor White. Councilmember Measy?
Let me try this. It has been my honor to serve on the Friendship Heights Village Council for the past 6 years. I'm grateful to the residents of the village who placed their trust in me, and I hope that my efforts have justified that trust. The colleagues and staff members with whom I worked over this period of time are an impressive group of people, united by their commitment to public service and to the well-being of the village and its residents. I want to particularly mention 3 people who I've worked with over the full 6 years of my tenure. Melanie Rose White has served this village as council member and mayor for half her adult life. She personifies the attributes of the ideal civic leader. In her work on the council, she has always been open-minded, thoughtful, prepared, and unfailingly gracious. As mayor, she has brought dignity and steadiness to the office. As a council member, she is a consistent voice of reason and moderation, and when different issues arise, she always knows the right thing for us to do. The village will be much less for her absence from the council. For my part, I want to say that it has been a pleasure and an honor to work with her. Second person I want to mention is Al Muller. Al was one of the people who first got me involved with village government when I was appointed to the Citizens Advisory Committee that he chaired. Al has devoted decades to the village and certainly holds the record for the most council meetings attended, either as a member of the council or as a resident. The very building that we are sitting in tonight is the product of his work. And for those who ask, he is the font of all information on the history of this village. Al has strong opinions, you might have noticed, on a number of issues, and he and I have disagreed several times, but we always have done so civilly and with mutual respect. And even when we disagreed, one thing that I never questioned was Al's love for the village of Friendship Heights and his consistent commitment to its well-being. Finally, I want to talk about Julian Mansfield, our village manager. All of us on the council are volunteers, and although we give generously of our time and effort, we are not always around. Julian is always around, utilizing his experience and expertise as he attends every single day to the issues, crises, and challenges, big and small, that arise. It is a bit of a thankless job, for when things go well, as they almost always do, Julian receives too little credit. And on those rare occasions when we fail, the blame tends to fall on him. The fact that the village has such an excellent and dedicated staff is in no small measure attributable to Julian's leadership. He creates an environment in which those who report to him feel valued and respected, and because of that, they go the extra mile, often several extra miles, in service to the village and its residents. It is easy enough to imagine this village without me on this council, but the village without Julian at the helm is unimaginable. I hope we know how fortunate we are to have him. One last word. When he was at Harvard, Henry Kissinger was reputed to have said that academic politics was so vicious because the stakes are so low. I sometimes think that this applies equally to our council. That's not to say that we deal with unimportant matters, but compared with what's going on in the world around us, the stakes are indeed low. Nevertheless, and especially over the last 2 years, there has been a certain viciousness to our verbal and written interactions with each other and with the staff. I hope that the new council can rectify this, that they can treat each other as well as our residents and staff with the respect that they deserve, and when they disagree, they can find ways to do that without being disagreeable.
Thank you, Councilmember Measy. Councilmember Orr?
Thanks. My tenure was considerably shorter than most, than all on the panel and many who've already spoken. So I'll just take a minute to say thank you to all of you for your faith and confidence. If it weren't for the rest of you, I wouldn't be here, both in encouraging me to consider the service and then after we had the opportunity to speak, giving me the opportunity to serve. I also appreciate the welcome, the time, the patience, the energy that you all and Julian and Jason invested in. I came into the middle of a number of conversations, and everyone was very gracious in bringing me up to speed in order to make some small positive impact. And thank you to everyone who is here at these meetings and the meetings of the committees and just walking the streets, investing time and energy in the village and being willing to share your perspectives with me, also helping to educate me on this work and the big issues facing all of us. I'll say the decision not to run was a difficult one. I think this is very much a right place, wrong time situation for me as I balance the number of sort of personal and professional pressures. This is a job that I have wanted to do with my best effort, and I was just not confident at this moment in time I could give it my best effort, but I do look forward in the future to continuing to serve in the village and our broader community. So thank you all very much, and please, I'm not going anywhere, so please continue to reach out, and in any big or small way that I could help any of you, please let me know.
Thank you, Councilmember Orr. Councilmember Tyler?
Mine starts off a little different than everyone else's, but pretty much ends in the same way. I personally have served in civil service positions throughout my life and wherever I lived in different cities and states throughout the country. It was ingrained as a child in how I was raised to always give back to your community. For those of us who do understand the true meaning of volunteer and community service, knows what it means in giving of oneself for the better of your community. The title only denotes the role you play in the bigger picture. However, what matters and what people look for is how you, the individual, take on the challenges with respect to the community, how you respect others' needs and wants in the community, how you listen to the community, how well you respond to the residents and what they want, not what you want, how you interact with nearby neighboring communities and governing representatives of our community, how you affiliate our community with other governing programs and organizations that help to enhance our community. But most important, how well you know how to leave your ego at home, be the bigger person in the situations, whether you like them or not, working through challenges together, understanding it's about achieving goals, setting realistic expectations, and being civil and respectable to everyone. You learn to accept criticism without confrontational vindictivism and meanness. I've been around real politicians all of my professional life and my own business. No one likes bullies, and no one likes someone who can't own their own stuff. You must not take things for granted. You have to be better, no matter what the event is, no matter what the situation is. Melanie Rose White has proven each of those things. As mayor, she was recently recognized and honored for her life dedication in civic work she has done for 20-plus years, and there's a reason. You may not agree with everything she does, and that's okay, because I guarantee you, you have no idea of all what she does behind the scenes, the people she knows, the connections she's made, the organizations and programs she's been involved in. She keeps her hand on the pulse, and she knows everything and that has and is happening in our community. She has shared a wealth of historical knowledge in the short 2 years I have worked here with her administration and alongside her. She has and continues to be a fierce protector of the administrative staff of the village, and I applaud her for that. Again, the average person does not know or see how our staff has and is verbally disrespected because someone else is having a bad day. She has stood up to council members who have not been nice to staff and to each other. Melanie is like that silent weapon that has no problem speaking up when necessary. Melanie, thank you for considering me as the first safety committee chair for the village. It was an honor, and we had a good time working together. She has been a friend and a wonderful colleague, and I miss you. I know I will. And I wish you happiness and continued success as you move forward. And as the saying goes, you should get your flowers while you're here. And one more thing I want to just say. Melanie has been part of the safety committee, and it was the first time this committee has been around, and as I said, I was the first chair. And there are a lot of things that went on during that time, and even though Melanie worked during the day, she and I always talked when things were going a different way, or I kept her up on what was going, and she'd give her viewpoint on different things. But she always knew what was going on here. And that committee, over the last 2 years, established a stronger bond, not that they didn't have one, but a stronger bond with the business community here in the village. And people forget that there are businesses that pay the taxes and contribute to everything in this community just as a resident does. And they have a voice, and they have sat down, and they've talked with us, and they've shared ideas, and they've shared what they've gone through. As a community, we became closer in the Friendship Heights Alliance safety meetings. We improved our visual and vocal voice. That has improved the village presence. We not only have a seat at the table, but our voices and our concerns have been heard and they've been responded to. Melanie really worked and pushed on that metro lighting issue along with Julian and Jason, and it did happen. But people didn't know who we really were here because we've always been quiet, and we've never had anybody to work to speak out for us as much as we did these last 2 years. We've enhanced our relationship with the Montgomery County Council President Friedson's office in helping to push forward with the Montgomery County Police on the drone program. Melanie and I talked about that program for a while, along with Julian and Jason and the chair. We wrote a letter supporting that drone program. It has helped and will help our community. It is now in place. It is in downtown Bethesda. It is handled by an operator there, but the drone is another tool to help the police. It reaches down to the border of DC and Maryland, so we are protected under that. Councilman Friedson's office was very happy to see that we supported that, and in our last event we had here, he and I chatted about it, and he was very happy and pleased that we did support him. We worked closely to enhance our working relationships with Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and I give Julian and Jason a lot of credit for that. It's ongoing and constantly staying behind them to see what's going on and what they're doing on Willard Avenue. Even though Willard doesn't belong to us, it bumps up to us. And so staying in contact with the Department of Transportation, we were able to find out what's going on with the new traffic lights and signals at the corner of Willard and Friendship. And so we have new lighting there. We understand what those cameras are about. We've painted crosswalks and stop bars in the village, and that needed to be done, and the next update shouldn't be for 15 more years now. We put 3 additional trash can pickups in the village at no extra charge because they added it to their route. We added 3 additional trash cans, and that may not seem like a lot, and people are saying, oh, it's just trash cans. Those trash cans, fortunately, we had 2 already in stock, but they average between $1,200 and $1,500 a piece. So we added those to the street. We added speed bumps in strategic locations while working with the consultant, and Julian was out there on the street along with Jason, and I came out a couple of times as well. They're now under warranty and should last up to 10 years. We conducted security assessments that hadn't been done before in this community. We walked the streets with the police, and we did each residential building and businesses, and individual reports were sent to those people. Additional security cameras have been installed in the village, and now we're waiting for them to be wired and put together, and they are going to be monitored by Montgomery County Police Department. And that is because we worked in a program with them. It took us about 6 or 7 months, but we got through that program, and now we have those cameras, and now they'll be monitored by somebody else. We had the off-duty program, which we started prior to me even becoming a council member, because I used to sit in the meetings and ask the questions. And 2 things I always asked about was the police contract and the bus contract. And Julian and I had many conversations prior to me even becoming a council member on those 2 topics. That contract was signed before this council came into play, but I had a concern about the insurance back then, and we worked on the insurance throughout this year. And it took us a while, it took us a long time, and Julian and Jason and our attorney sat there on many phone calls and many emails working with Montgomery County insurance representatives and the FOP. We found out, and we talked about it, and we finally got it down after about 8 months, almost a year of working on that with Montgomery County Insurance. It will cost us $500 a year to protect to use the police in the community on the off-duty program, or you want to name it another program, but to work with the police, it will cost $500 a year, and that cost would not go into affect the budget until the 2027 budget. So there is enough money in the program, in the budget now, to pay for it, if we had to pay for it in the 2026. But it won't go until 2027. The off-duty program went into a pause at Thanksgiving of last year, just so we could solve this problem on the insurance. And we also solved the problem through our lawyer and everyone else I mentioned, and worked with Donna to figure out how to bring them back on, and push the button to bring them back. And they can be brought on as our employee staff with no benefits. Donna said that that's just like adding another person that she already works on the payroll anyway. And so it's no extra money, it's money in the budget, and that's how they can be brought back. And the attorney was fine and advised to move forward if we wanted to go that route. So there is a way, and we did work a lot to get that done. And as I shared, the police did a lot in this community, and many people may forget there were 3 strange car accidents in the community over this last year especially. The one that fell off just leaped over, and I happened to be on the street when the car leaped over the Barlow building and saw it crash. There was another one in the building next door. The person put the car in reverse, and it spun around a 180, did not hit the other building. It was an older person in that car. Unfortunately, in both incidents, neither one was hurt. The police were able to respond quickly because they were here. Then we had the other one that ran into the Gourmet Deli by accident. The police were able to respond because they were close by. We've had robberies in the arcade. We had a very unique relationship develop, and that was with the owner of the Gourmet Market, who personally went up to the police and thanked them, because where she was from, the police were not their friends, and they were happy to finally be able to be friends with the police. So there's a lot that has happened in this community. We've also had an attempted carjacking. Fortunately, that person survived. They were injured. We've had robberies in the stores. But because we've had the police nearby, because if you remember, we talked about the area the village is in is called the Edward I sector of the police map, and that is a large area. So if our response time is 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the issue, that's when they get here. But I want to give a special thanks to Julian, Jason, and Donna. You have made transitioning as a council member, a new one to the community, very easy to work with. You respond quickly. You're really a lot of fun to be around. We've gone through a lot. I've learned a lot. We've sat there and thrown things up in the air and say, okay, what are we going to do with this? But we think and we come up with ideas, and we've done a lot of that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate each of you. And please tell Donna she worked the numbers, because Donna keeps the lights on in here. Donna pays the vendors. Thank her as well. Melanie, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyler. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing on the draft fiscal year 2026 budget. There are copies of the budget over on the table here, and Jason just told me that the live stream is back up, so some portion of the comments will be heard and will be videoed as well. So 2 people have signed up for the public budget hearing. First, Roger Cacchetti.
Roger Cocchetti, 5500 Friendship Boulevard, and I will be brief. I don't have a lot to contribute except to say that in this budgetary environment that we're all facing at the federal, state, and county level, managing the budget in this year and as we go forward is extremely important. It seems to me that there are three keys to managing the budget effectively, and they are innovation, innovation, and innovation. And by that I mean not all innovation. Sometimes innovation is just technological. I'm old enough to remember when I used to use messenger services, and then I started using fax services, and then I started using email. And guess what? Each time it costs less and got more done. Other times innovation is a matter of just looking at the same problem differently and figuring out how to, without any new technology, figuring out how to do the same thing without spending as much money. So I'm hoping that this year's budget, which I don't claim to understand fully, but this year's budget and future budgets follow the key of innovating in order to conserve resources and do more with less. Thanks.
Thank you. For those who have just joined us online and through streaming, I want to let you know that the reason why you couldn't join at the beginning of the meeting is because Comcast service was out in the area, and it has just come back on. So thank you if you've hung in there and are with us now. Al Muller?
Is this for the budget? I did not sign up for the budget. This is
Okay, I'll call you on to the next one then. Thanks. Is there anyone else who wants to? This is just on the budget. Okay, I'm sorry. Charles Schwartz? Patricia, did you want to make a comment on the budget? No. Okay, hold off for just a minute, please. One more. Yep. Charles Schwartz?
I'm Charles Schwartz from 4620 North Park Avenue. I just have one question concerning the capital expenditures. On the last page of the budget materials, there's an item of costs necessary to complete Page Park, including funds withheld in the original contract. So does that mean that really only $250,000 will, we already have, there's still $100,000 under the existing contract?
Mr. Schwartz, if I may, this is an opportunity for your comment rather than to, you've asked a question, I'm sure, I'm sure, Mr. Schwartz, that Councilmember Schaefer will address those issues in the presentation.
So if he's going to address it, then...
I'm sorry. The same as it has always been, please make your comment. It's not an opportunity to ask questions of the council.
I was asking a question.
Thank you very much. Do you have any other comments to make?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on then to the treasurer's report. Yeah, resident, yeah. We do have resident comments. I'm sorry, thank you. Well, these are resident comments, not about the budget. Thank you. Yep. And do I have that sign up? I'm sorry? Okay. That's what I thought. General comments from the public to the council come up later, Michael. Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Councilmember Schaefer.
Is this the budget or the treasurer's report?
Treasurer's report.
I'll pass on that for this month to address the budget, but to answer that question, the $350,000, it includes the amount remaining on the contract not paid, which is $190,000 plus, and it's an estimate, additional costs to get the park open, stormwater, ADA compliance, engineering reports, permit fees. So that's what we, as of July 1st, when this budget starts, what we believe will be left. For everything. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Village Manager's report.
Thank you. Just first a couple of quick details about the Village Council election coming up. The election date is Monday, May 12th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. here at the Village Center. There is a voter's guide that has just been published on our website. It was produced by the League of Women Voters. It was just put on the website today, and it's at the printer, and copies will be printed and delivered to residents. It contains statements of all 8 candidates and some other information about the election. Also, there will be a candidate forum on May 5th, Monday, May 5th, at 7 p.m. at the Village Center, and that will be live streamed as well. And mail-in ballots, there's an application for a mail-in ballot for those who cannot vote in person, and the League of Women Voters will be processing those ballots. And we have a ballot drop box right outside the center. Second item is an update on a public safety committee item that we've been discussing about integrating security cameras. We are moving forward, and we have received the equipment that we need, that we purchased. And this Wednesday, we will have the installation of that equipment by the police IT folks, and that will enable the police to be able to view in real time our cameras and monitor and be able to get footage directly without having to access separately through us. So we're excited to get that wrapped up, hopefully this Wednesday, and we'll be able to report on it by the end of the week. And then I'll turn it over to Jason for an update on cybersecurity.
Thank you. I'll make this brief. I know it's been a while since we gave the council an update on the cybersecurity remediation process. It's been a very heavy lift for the two of us. We don't have an IT department, as you can imagine, and we're dealing with the federal government, the state, and at times the county. So this has really been a long-term project, but I'm happy to report we're about 80% finished, and we'll present our findings and what the state of Maryland recommends with the new council. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Village Manager Mansfield?
Just a final comment on behalf of the staff and to the 5 folks that are leaving the council. Thank you for your wonderful words, and it's certainly reciprocated from our end, and it's been a privilege to work with you. In my position, I think I have a better appreciation than maybe the average person, what it takes to sit on your side of the table and do what you do, and it takes a tremendous level of commitment, and I think of you as the ultimate community volunteers, putting yourself out there and stepping up to do this work. And communities all over the country depend on folks like you doing exactly this all over the place to keep the wheels moving. So I really appreciate all of you, and special shout out to Melanie for 30 plus years of a wonderful partnership with me and staff, present and previous, and council members, current and previous. Tremendous adventure of a lifetime for me as well. I've spent more than half of my life in this place, in this job. So, and you've been a huge part of the reason I've stayed so long. So thank you, Melanie. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any comments from council members? Council member Salt, and then Tyler, and then Schaefer.
I'd like to join my colleagues in thanking the staff and fellow council members, some who've participated for a shorter time, and of course Melanie, the ultimate. Thank you for all you've done.
Just wanted to remind everyone, and along with what Julian was talking about, the 17th, we have the fraud presentation for our town hall. And the reason we're having the fraud, if some of you remember, the village was highlighted as not having such a good reputation on this, as being #1 as having the most fraud committed to our residents in this community. So as a result, we are bringing in a representative from Montgomery County Police Department to come and give some tips and want you to learn to pay a little more attention on some of the newest tricks of the trade to get you to sign up for some unsavory things that are going on. I received 2 this week, one from American Express and one from Wells Fargo. I called American Express right away. I don't deal with Wells Fargo. So that will be the 17th, and then the next one will be on the 21st, and that is going to be a town hall on safety tips in our community. Some people don't think we have crime here. We have a lot around us, and when it lurks around you, it figures out a way to get in. So both of those dates, we hope you'll be able to attend, and Julian, I lean to you to tell me the times.
7 p.m. On the 21st, 2 p.m. on the 17th. That's an afternoon program. But as you said, the 17th is restricted to senior scams. The 21st is more of a general town hall on safety. And in fact, one of the mayor's announcements is about that one as well on the 21st.
If you received the last AARP magazine, it was dedicated solely to nothing but scams. It was one of the best ones that I've read recently on scams. So if you have, or you can get a hold of that, pull that one out and pay attention to it, because it really does hit home on scams.
Just one comment before I turn to Councilmember Schaefer. Since dates are being mentioned, Community Day is on April 26th. I'm sure the mayor will mention that, but I mention it in the context of the comments that have been made about Mayor White. We have arranged for a special presentation to her on that date. I hope that you all will be there and that many residents will participate in that wonderful event as well, celebrating the anniversary here. And of course, Mayor White, I hope you'll be there. Yeah, okay. Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you. So, yeah, I also want to add my voice to thank all the council members for serving, for their time, their input, especially Mayor White. One of the things I always admired about Mayor White is any time I wanted to meet with her and talk to her about an issue, she would always make herself available and share her views with me. It doesn't bother me when we've had disagreements, which I think is maybe a function of the fact that we've had 4 and then 5 first-term council members, and I think sometimes you get better decisions from disagreeing and having different points of view, and hopefully all 5 will continue to share your views and find a way to continue to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Let's move on to the mayor's announcements. Mayor White.
Thank you. Please join us for our annual Community Day celebration on Saturday, April 26th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. This event celebrates the anniversary of the opening of the Village Center. For more details, check the April newsletter posted on our website. The Council Public Safety Committee is hosting a public safety town hall on Monday, April 21st at 7 p.m. at the Village Center. A representative from the County Police Department will be here to discuss crime prevention tips and report on recent incidents. This event will also be live streamed. The Council Development Committee is hosting a public listening session for residents to express their views on the upcoming revision to the Friendship Heights Sector Plan. The listening session will be held on Monday, April 28th at 7 p.m. at the Village Center. This event will also be live streamed. Drug Take Back Day is Saturday, April 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Village will once again participate in this national program. A county police officer will be in the Village Center lobby to collect and safely dispose of your unwanted or expired prescription drugs.
Thank you, Mayor White. We turn now to comments from the public to the council. Again, this is an opportunity for public comments, not for an engagement with the council. And 6 members, 6 people have signed up to make comments. The first is Al Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry that so many people, if they're still watching this streaming, didn't see the very, very, very fine comments from the 5 of you that are retiring. This is, for those of you who may not realize, the first time ever in the history of the village that we've had so many people retire. Not been defeated, retired. There's a big difference. And in addition to what I've heard about each of you from each other, I think it only appropriate that at least one person who's been to every meeting but 6 over the last 50 years can say something about the 5 of you, because I think you've each done an extraordinary job, beginning with Councilman R. His lawyer training, I think, allowed Daniel to look at both sides of every issue when there was a controversy, and there were a few controversies, the pros and cons, and balance them fairly, in addition to being the chair of the Red House Committee, which I'm hoping will finally be leased tonight. Well done, Daniel, and thank you on behalf of the community for all your work and all that you've contributed. For Councilwoman Tyler, the common sense councilwoman, she looked at everything, I thought, the way the average resident would look at them. She looked at safety. She looked at things that we've heard a lot about, but not enough has ever been done. There were new alliances with the various departments that she described tonight in great detail. And she did visibly have those speed bumps for security and the trash cans for health. She has been, throughout her life, a trailblazer. For those of you who haven't read her biography, a unique picture by a very special person. So thank you, Cheryl. Bobby Pastronk had one of the hardest jobs. He had to herd the cats, and that is one tough job. He brought the most dedication I've seen in anyone in the last 50 years. He was at everything. He was at every meeting that he could get to. He met with citizens. He met with other governments. He tried his best to let everyone know that they were welcome. He started committees, ad hoc committees, that were very important for climate change and for development. And I thank him for having an open mind. What started as a political difference, I think, ended in mutual respect and friendship. So thank you, Bobby. Michael Measy, extraordinary. His academic background allowed him to be the diplomat of the council, and every time there was a problem, he tried to move things along by consensus and a bit of humor. He also is responsible in the next few weeks for getting us $1 million to protect the Red House and to be put in our coffers so that we don't have a deficit. And finally, of course, thank you, Michael, and thank you for your kind comments about me. Finally, Melanie, what wasn't said was, yes, she served for 32 years, but that's a 100-year record. There's been nobody that served on the council for 32 years. She served for 28 years as the mayor. Now, I did edge her out by 2 years, or 26 years, but she carried that office with the grace and the dignity that each of you recognize. She represented the best of this village. It's Friendship Heights, and no one has represented that better than our mayor. And finally, all of you, I think, had a common thread. You all spoke about our dedicated staff. That is our most important amenity in this village. It's more important than the things I'm proud of helping this village get. It's more important than this building. It's more important than the shuttle bus. It's more important than the statues. It's more important than the post office. This staff is the hardest working, brightest, most dedicated to the people in this village that I have seen in my 52 years living here, and they deserved all the wonderful praise you gave them. I wish you each well. You've done a marvelous job, and if the new council and the new people, hopefully watching, I'm sorry that they're not here. That is a disappointment, but maybe I'm just a little too personal or emotional about that. I think if they listen to what was said with no motive other than saying what they did for this village, I think if you can emulate that, new council members, you will be a long ways towards being a very successful council, and I wish you well with that. And I thank you all, one and all.
Thank you. Patricia Canessa?
Yes, I'm Patricia Canessa. I am living 5500 Friendship Boulevard. Yes, here comes the devil advocate. I think that is very nice, all the work that you have done. And leadership by today is not welcome, I think, by too many people. We see bad examples every day, and certainly our lives are changing constantly with very unpredictable decisions in legislation as well as in how the government is managed. So our views and our work as representatives of a small village also need to enter into a new paradigm, into a new understanding of what is community and what is the support that needs as community. I think that we still have a community that is very aloof to engagement, that the work with the community has not been completed, that we need to engage more people in this conversation. We need to be more diverse in these conversations too. And certainly to look a little more into which are, as Councilwoman Cheryl say, what is the community talking about? What is their problems? Which are their specific needs that we need to respond in a more rapid way and a more strategic way, but also more inclusive way. I am very concerned about the fact that I did many questions, and I stopped to come here for a period of time because the questions were never answered, because there is nobody in the council that took the time to come back to me and to say, well, we want to respond to your question. That's part of community engagement. That's the way that you engage the community. And I think that we need to be very serious about this in the times of a crisis that we are confronting now in order to keep a community growing and certainly connected with its institutions. The last comment that I'm going to say is all this emphasis that has been done in scams. You know, there is a couple of groups here that are taking place here in this building that have been dealing with the issue of scams for already more than 6 months in every session that they have. So, as I say to our council chair once, this is Churchill Downs. We are all running to the same goal, but we forget that in reality there is many of us that are doing the same thing. How we can coalesce this thinking and really have a community that's far more integrated. Thank you for your job anyway. Leadership is welcome today, and healthy leadership, obviously. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Okay.
Thank you. Mike Dorsey?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Already tonight, I guess I've heard from the council. By the way, I've been in the village for, live at 4620. I've been in the village for 12 years. I believe I've been to more council meetings than anybody in the room except for Melanie, Dr. Muller, and no other residents, possibly the staff, of course. But I guess what I've heard tonight is ego, arrogance, I think even the word vicious. And I'm sad to see that we're going to be left with 2 council members that embody what I believe is ego, arrogance, and a thirst for power. Ironically, those are the same traits that we saw in the 1930s in Italy, and also today with our Doge group and Elon Musk in Washington, D.C. So I'm really concerned about the future of the village and those running for office that are not here. And looking back 2 years ago, Ms. Salt's husband, Dan Dyer, told me that she stood for openness and togetherness in the village. I have not seen that. He told me that she's a union representative. I've been in the union for 55 years, and I feel for those government workers if the rest of our union representatives representing those people in the federal government and the state governments are represented with more representatives like yourself. Now, Mr. Schaefer, our treasurer, in 2 years, at every meeting, you've never given us the full story. You've never told us in the budget about what was coming, the $1 million. Councilmember Measy had to remind us each month that $1 million was coming. You never point out that when this building is built over Brooks Brothers, that we're going to have more income tax coming in, more real estate tax. So to me, if you're not telling the whole truth, you're lying. And we deserve better. So I feel for the village. I hope the egos, the arrogance, the viciousness, and the thirst for power stops with whoever the 5 new members are that are coming in. And I want to end with, thank you, Melanie. As Al said, and others, no one will ever do what you've done in this village. And Al Muller, this man sitting right here between you and him, have done more good for this village than anybody else in this community ever. So thank you too, and thank you others who served on the council and are leaving. I understand why.
Thank you. Roger Cacchetti?
Roger Cocchetti, 5500 Friendship Boulevard. Let me begin by thanking the members of the council who have devoted their time and energy to working for us, in some cases for many years, in other cases for a few years. I may come as small comfort for you to know that some of us, many of us, recognize that when we leave these meetings, we go back into our normal lives and have nothing to worry about, and you don't. And for that, we are all grateful and in your debt. I don't think anybody could comment about the members who are retiring without giving a special mention to Melanie. When I moved into Friendship Heights 5 or 6 years ago, she is and was the face of the community and the face of the village. And the one thing I would say about it that is most important, and that is confidence. What I reacted to when I first got to observe Melanie in action was it gave me confidence that I had moved into the right place. It's that special combination of empathy and competence that is rare to find. So thank you all, and especially thank you for Melanie. I'll quickly comment on a procedural item which I think is ongoing regardless of the council's makeup, and that is it is my view that the village should not only tolerate or allow, but it should encourage and promote and publicize written comments to the council. These should be posted on the website when people make them. They should be encouraged and, most importantly, facilitated. It should be very easy to do that. Just imagine that if we all know that only a tiny, tiny fraction of the people who live in Friendship Heights come to these meetings, but through written contributions, it might be possible to get a wider swath of people actually contributing. And the good news is you don't have to listen to me. You can open up my email at 5 o'clock in the morning when you can't go back to sleep. And we don't have to come here at a time that's convenient for you if we have schedule conflicts. So I think it's very important in the future council planning that it give great emphasis to that. And I'd one quick last comment, since my main focus has been on planning, and we're in a momentous period for planning of the future. I think it is important that the future councils accept the notion that it's okay to be obstreperous in defense of the people who live in Friendship Heights. You are the only people or looking out for our interest. And there's nothing wrong with being contentious about that with other people who have vastly different interests. So thanks, and thank you again to those who've donated their time so much.
Thank you. Charles Schwartz?
Thank you again. I'm Charles Schwartz, 4620 North Park Avenue. As this is the last meeting of the current council, I wanted to direct my comments to not only the current council, but to the prior council and to the incoming future councils. It seems to me that Page Park, that's all right, thank you. A long-standing issue has been Page Park, as you're all well aware. It seems to me that some members of the prior and or current council have been focused on getting the park completed, whether the park fully complies with ADA requirements. That there's been a push to get it done, which I agree with. It should get done as soon as possible, but it should get done so that every resident of Page Park can use it. And I'm very upset that hasn't happened, and I hope that it will. In my opinion, the prior council chose a contractor, and the contractor and the council have not properly taken into account Montgomery County regulations and ADA requirements. And this has led to the awful situation where the park has been closed for over 1 year, and it's nowhere near completion. I notice that the budget mentions that their money is being included to deal with ADA requirements from the outset. It's a wonderful idea. It should have been done for Page Park, and I think that the council has learned this lesson from the Page Park situation. The council has a comprehensive list of actions to be taken to comply with ADA, compiled by a licensed architect. And I trust that the change order for Azar will take into account all those actions, not just some, all of them. I look forward to the next council dealing with Page Park to make it fully accessible. I have two more things to say. One, I agree with the gentleman about comments being put into the newsletter. I make many comments here. People can listen to them, hear them. I send many emails. And also I make comments here and I get nothing back. I think procedures should be changed, that if I have a complaint, somebody else has a complaint, you answer it then and there, because it goes into the ether, nobody answers it, nobody responds. Thank you. I'll continue. That's one thing. Secondly, I'm disappointed in some of the comments made at this meeting with personal aspersions. You'll notice that I did not mention one person's name here. I talk about the prior council, the current council. I don't mention anybody personally because they're collective actions that are taken most of the time. So I would recommend that if you're not going to do it at this meeting, the next president of the council stop somebody when they cast personal aspersions on somebody. That's uncalled for and not proper and not puts this council in a bad light as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Valeria Orlandini.
Good evening. Valeria Orlandini, 4515 Willard. I come here today. I haven't done a lot of these conversations with the council and the neighbors, but I'm really aware that if we don't start working as a community for the elderly people, for people who are losing jobs, for people who are immigrants and want to make a life in this country and in this community. Recently, we just out of the blue received an email that the county is going to raise our condo fees 2.5%. No explanations about why, where, how we can do this all of a sudden. So I really advocated for almost 10 days getting our community in the Willoughby of Chevy Chase condominium have sent many emails and letters, and I called personally. Last Thursday, they told me that they are going to extend this proposal to have the 2.5% condo fees increase. This will really affect elderly people that live with a fixed income, young families that are struggling when mom or dad are losing jobs, and many of us that work in culture, in museums, in libraries, in archives, you know what's the current situation. So I urge everyone here, if you can advocate for Somerset or neighborhood in Chevy Chase or in Bethesda, they don't have to pay this 2.5 increase of condo fees or equal in their homes. But we chose to live in buildings because we like communities, we like people, we like to be surrounded by places like this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else who has signed up to make a comment, so I will move us on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the public session minutes of the March 10th council meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to adopt the minutes of March 10th.
Okay, the motion to adopt the minutes has been made by Councilmember Solt and supported by Councilmember Tyler. Is there any discussion about that? I had one observation to make, and that is that although there was no action taken on, there's one action taken on the discussion about Parks and Grounds Committee for signage. There were 2 straw votes which provided direction, one which passed and one which failed. The one that passed was on dog leashing and cleanup. And I wondered whether the council might want to include that in some fashion in the minutes for a subsequent council that might look back to see about that discussion. The one that failed had to do with combustible products, smoking products in any park. So I don't know how the council would wish. The council has typically only included actions, motions, not straw votes, but I'm wondering whether the council wants to make an exception here. Councilmember Tyler?
If you're looking just to say so that the future council will know what was discussed, even though it was voted down, so that it leaves a trail to show the discussion, I can understand that, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm looking. I think that it was, well, not an official vote and was just a straw vote, that it might provide some guidance to future councils.
If you can add it in a way, and I lend that to Councilmember Salt, in the recordings of things, if you can add it in a way that says these 2 topics were discussed but voted down for future record.
One was voted up.
One was voted up.
One was voted down. I don't know.
But at least they can have it for record if that's the emphasis of it. I don't know.
Councilmember R and then Sol.
I'm hesitant to support that only because I think, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the council, but I think we kind of prefaced that discussion as an informal sense of where people might go presented with more formal questions. So I think if there was an expectation that we were going to memorialize just those decisions, there might have been more discussion or something, people might have perhaps headed in a different direction. So I'm just hesitant to now, in retrospect, hold people, on the formal record to something that I think we presented as a bit more of an informal tool for us to understand which direction to take the formal discussion in the future.
Okay. Councilmember Sol?
I just want to comment, anything's possible to write down. We have the transcript, so as the council wishes.
Councilmember Mazie?
I think Dan's right, and we were trying to just move the conversation along. Turned out we weren't going to be able to get to a conclusion anyway. 5/7 of the people who voted on there are not going to be there at the next council meeting. So, and we can't. This doesn't bind the next council in any way. So, I guess my inclination is not to include it.
Any other comments? On the motion then to approve the minutes of the March 10th council meeting, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Councilmember Sol?
Are you voting?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
did.
then I don't need a voice vote. Thanks.
Thank you. That takes us on to discussion vote on the revised village investment policy. This is coming out of the Finance Committee, so Councilmember Schaefer.
Okay, thank you. So back in February, there was a policy that was introduced. The full council made a determination to refer it back to the Finance Committee. We did approve a policy that was a 2-to-1 vote. Subsequent to that approval, and this is sort of problematic, the policy was rewritten to the point it required legal input, which sort of defeats the purpose of having committee approval, since what we are voting on now is not what the committee approved. It's been overwritten. But so I'm not even sure what we're being asked to approve, if it's what came out of the committee or what was written subsequently. Perhaps the chairman could speak to that.
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to that and provide a little history as well. The village adopted an investment policy consistent with state law in 1995. Mr. Schaefer introduced a revised investment policy asking for quick action at the February 13th council meeting. A new one certainly is desirable, but it wasn't, in my estimation, an emergency. The one proposed in February needed vetting by others, and some of the documents on which it was based were incomplete. And as the council member mentions, the village council referred the issue to the Finance Committee for its recommendation. The Finance Committee met on February 27th to consider the policy recommended by Mr. Schaefer and revisions to that policy which I recommended. The committee asked Mr. Schaefer and me to work to achieve consensus on a policy to be recommended to the Finance Committee at its next meeting. Mr. Schaefer and I met on March 5th to share our thoughts and differences. And after that meeting, Mr. Schaefer drafted the agreement he understood had been reached. I pointed out on March 8th that several points of agreement, from my point of view, had been left out of the draft, and sought to meet with Mr. Schaefer again to resolve the differences. That follow-up meeting never occurred, despite multiple attempts from his point of view, that several points of the agreement from his point of view had been left out of the draft, and sought to meet with him. The meeting never occurred, despite multiple attempts to arrange it by me and regular demurrals and conditions set by Mr. Schaefer for the meeting. The village council was advised that a recommendation would not be forthcoming for the March 10th meeting. The Finance Committee was advised on March 19th that as yet no agreement between he and I had been reached. And Mr. Mazie then advised the Finance Committee members that he would ask both Mr. Schaefer and me to present our proposals at the March 26th Finance Committee meeting, where a vote would be taken to adopt a policy for recommendation to this council meeting. My proposal was adopted with Mr. Schaefer voting no. I then worked with Village Manager Mansfield and Attorney Bolt to present the proposed policy which the council has in the packet tonight, and that is the policy that is being considered. I worked with Mr. Mansfield and Mr. Bolt to make certain that the policy that was coming to the council had the concurrence of our legal advisor. And several meetings took place, digital meetings, my conversation with the village manager and the village manager's contact with Attorney Bolt. I provided council members with an email Sunday morning to supplement the information in the Friday memo about the changes in the draft policy, which resulted from correspondence with Mr. Bolt and why those changes were made at Mr. Bolt's recommendation. Some parts were unclear, and some parts were ultimately responsive to comments that Councilmember Schaefer and Councilmember Solt made. And Attorney Bolt has approved the policy that is before the council tonight. I want to say also that this is an investment policy, and it describes how the village council and its employees will protect investments which total millions of dollars annually. And it addresses a basic and most primary fiduciary responsibility of the council. I shared my reasons at the Finance Committee for why I thought recommendations that I had offered should be made. And as I mentioned, the policy that is in front of the council tonight reflects those changes and ones that were recommended following discussion with Attorney Bolt. So I would move to adopt the policy that is recommended in the council packet. So a motion has been moved to adopt the village investment policy that is in the packet, seconded by Councilmember Measy. Is there discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, I'll sort of get into my specific issue separately, but I just want to disagree, and I was hoping not to get personal, but I don't agree with the characterization of how.
Speak into the microphone so we can hear.
Thank you. I do not agree with the description of how the meetings took place prior to the approval, and I'll also mention that there was what we heard doesn't change the fact that we are not being asked to approve what the Finance Committee approved, which alone I think would be a justification for sending it back or voting no. And I'll comment on some of the specific points later.
Thanks. Councilmember Solt.
I have no comments on the history. I'm only talking about the document that's in the notebook right now. One thing I think is very good is that the investment options are limited to 3 things. One is U.S. government securities, and I would note that I think the definition of U.S. government securities needs to be modified. I don't have the correct definition with me right now. A second is in federally insured deposits at federally insured banks, which is, we all understand. The third is in what many people may not know, the Maryland Municipal League offers funds. Those are not available to retail investors. So it really limits risk to the village. I think those are very good things. And because they are so simple, and I don't mean simple in a bad way, but constrained, the sort of possibilities, the options and possibilities for conflicts are very, very limited. And for that reason, and I don't think the language in the ethics and conflicts of interest really kind of addresses how simple this policy is. I'd like to make a motion to amend Section 6 to replace it with the Maryland, what's Section 6 in the model investment policy by the state of Maryland, with slight adjustments for language. I can pass this out to you. And I'd like to explain a little bit as to why. One provision in, yeah, if you don't mind, thank you. One provision in the current draft includes a conflict provision related to village programs and contracts, but that restriction only applies to staff involved in the investment process. It doesn't apply to staff with actual job duties related to programs and contracts, and is really beyond the scope of investment policy. So in some ways, I think the edits that were made introduces a broad ethics policy embedded into an investment policy. So some of the differences, the state investment policy says, excuse me a second, material, you would basically disclose material financial interests. The current one says disclose any personal financial interests. If I have a bank account with $1 in it, in a bank where the village has investments, I would have to disclose that. I would call that de minimis and really not worth the trouble of anyone. So I think we are better off sticking with the simple language that is in the model investment policy for Section 6. And when we started this whole effort, we had one piece of advice from our village attorney, and that was follow the model investment policy. And that's what I'm proposing for Section 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion? Is there support for that amendment? There's an amendment proposed.
Oh.
So, is there discussion on the amendment? Yes,
Yeah, I
there was.
seconded.
Councilmember Schaefer seconded. Is there discussion on the amendment proposed? Yes, Councilmember R.
So I'm just doing a quick side-by-side, and it seems that this, the model language is at least substantially consistent to a recommendation or an observation that I was going to make. I'll start by saying that I am strongly in support of a general ethics policy for the council and staff. I just think that's a matter of good governance. Set expectations so people know what behaviors we are expecting of them and then hold them accountable to those expectations. I'm concerned that the several references to other village programs and contracts in this particular policy sort of buries a general ethics expectation in a specific governance document. I'm afraid that might lead to some confusion. Folks may not be looking to this document, particularly council members and staff not engaged in the investment process, are unlikely to look here for broader obligations imposed on them. And so I was going to recommend this language, absent the several, 4 references to, maybe 5 references, to other village programs and contracts. With those references removed, I think does exactly what we're looking for. I would strongly support direction or encourage the new council to take up early in their agenda a broader ethics and perhaps conduct policy for the operation of the council. But I'm just not sure this is the vehicle to capture those broader conflicts concerns.
Other comments? Councilmember Tyler?
I would chime in at the end of what Councilmember Arrow had said, because I've had a conversation with our attorney on proposing, suggesting, recommending this council, which is ending, and shared it with the mayor, that this council, and maybe the new council will do it, is to have a separate ethics committee and work to put a ethics policy together. And the attorney and I spoke at length about that, and I think that is a separate comment, as you said, and I think it is a separate suggestion, and that will take time to create an ethics policy. I think trying to squirm that in here is fruitless at this point, and I think an ethics policy is something of another discussion. Does it belong in here? No.
Other comments?
I would just repeat, because I was going to say what Councilmember Sult said. The only direction we got from our attorney was follow the state policy, and this is just one of the examples that goes way beyond it. I agree with Councilmember Tyler, Councilmember R. We should scale it back to what's required for an investment policy and not overreach.
Thank you.
No,
Council.
I didn't say scale anything back. I said the ethics part is what does not belong in here. I did not say scale this back. The ethics part does not belong in here.
So are you speaking, just so I understand, and maybe other council members too, you're in support of the amendment, which would remove reference to programs and contracts, and only have it focus on investment?
I am fine with this policy.
Okay.
Except the deep delve and dive into the ethics part of this, because it's delving into more about ethics than it is about this policy. So I'm not into scaling back, because I do not want to, because I've sat in those budget meetings. I do not want to go back to the slim, trim, lined policy, because that policy left everybody out and put only one person to have all say. And if I recall, someone did say no one person should have that much power. So the policy is fine with me. I just don't think we need to sit here and dibble-dab about ethics when the real issue is that you need to create an ethics policy.
Okay. Councilmember Mazie?
I guess I should know the answer to this question, but I don't. Do we need a conflict of interest statement as part of our investment policy? Would that be required for an investment policy? Because I'm sort of sympathetic to the notion that, you know, having a conflict of interest policy probably should extend to things, as Daniel said, beyond simply this. Now, what would be the legal, would there be any implications if we simply eliminated at this section 6 and just had the investment policy without section 6 in it, and as been suggested, have the next council work on a comprehensive ethics and conflict of interest policy that applies generally to the village?
My understanding from Attorney Bolt's emails, and I turn to you, Village Manager Mansfield, because you had, you know, some direct conversation with him, that an ethics and conflict of interest section is required and is a part of what the state requires in an investment policy. Is that
Yes,
right?
with the caveat that there's no requirement for a specific statement or form that has to be signed.
Right, and that's been
There's
removed.
no requirement for that, but
Right.
the general statement of conflict of interest or ethics is included in the state
Yep.
model.
Right, so Councilmember Salt?
I think, excuse me, I certainly believe we should have a general overarching ethics policy, and I commit to do my part to make that happen if I'm elected in the next council. But I think the simplest way to move this forward is to use the simple language in the motion I made to basically replace the language in the notebook with the language in the model policy with the minor corrections of saying the village instead of the state and so forth and so on. That is the simplest way to accomplish, I think, what we're trying to accomplish today.
Is there any further discussion?
Well,
Yes,
it's just a point of
Councilmember
order.
Schaefer.
If I wanted to make another amendment, that would come after we vote on this one.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, there's been a motion to amend Section 6 of the proposed investment policy on ethics and conflict of interest with the language that Councilmember Salt has provided to each of us. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I would be opposed.
And I'd
So-
appreciate,
And I think a
yeah,
roll
so
call
I
is
can get
necessary
that.
here.
Mhm,
Go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. R.,
Yes.
Mr. R 4, Mr. Measy,
Yes.
Mr. Measy 4, Mr. Schaefer,
4.
Mr. Schaefer 4, Salt 4, Ms. Tyler? Yes. 4, Ms. White?
Opposed.
Against? Mr. Pestrunk?
Against.
Against. So I have 5-2.
Okay, so the proposed policy that is in the packet has been amended to substitute the ethics and conflict of interest policy, language that we have before us. We're back to the original motion on the investment policy that is in the packet. Is there discussion? Councilman Schaefer?
Well, I'd like to propose an amendment. I can make this as one amendment. It's just two changes. Under internal control, the statement that begins with "statements shall include a list of village investments," I'd like to remove it. There's already a standard format for
Oh, where-
I'm sorry, section 11, internal control. Our accountants have rules they have to follow. They follow those rules in how they present investments. I'm not even sure what a list means. It's just, it goes far beyond, again, an investment policy. And in the same vein, I would also strike the last paragraph that says, as part of the annual audit process. Again, it goes beyond what is required or needed or should be part of an investment policy to allow individual members to sort of make suggestions for how the auditors do their job. So my amendment is to just remove those two sentences.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first sentence. Chairman, would you mind
No, go
asking him
ahead.
to repeat it?
Remove, in the first paragraph, the sentence that begins with "statements shall include a list of village investments." Just take that out. And take out the last sentence.
Hold on, please.
Sorry.
Okay.
And remove the last sentence that begins with, "as part of the annual audit process."
Councilman Schaefer, if I might, since these are two very different subjects, would you be willing to amend your motion so that we can address each one
Separate votes?
separately?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. So let's talk then about the first amendment, which is not to strike statements shall include a list of village investments. Is there discussion about that?
I have a question.
Is there a second?
Yeah, sorry.
Second.
Is-
Okay, I'll
so-
second, yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Schaefer has moved this first one, and Councilmember Salt has supported it. And that is not to remove the language about including a list of village investments. Councilmember Salt?
Yes, could you please clarify exactly where the item on the MML funds, the bank deposits, and the, if we have any U.S. government securities, where they would be?
Let me also, before Councilmember Schaefer answers that question, just so everyone's clear, there is no MML fund. There is a Maryland local government investment pool.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with MML.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I changed my question to include the item that Bobby said, and then the bank deposits and U.S. government securities, if we have the three permissible investments.
It's been a while since I've looked at the financial statements, but all of our assets, including cash assets, CDs, are included within the audited financial statements that are presented according to whatever the FASB, the financial rules are. So I'm not sure if this would require something that goes into some excruciating detail beyond what's required, but again, I'd say let the auditors present in a way that they're required to present, and not sort of dictate an overlay on that.
No, what he's referencing is the second, he's referencing the second.
It refers to the
He's
audited
referencing, we're
statements.
talking now about the statements to include a list of village investments.
Meaning the audited statements.
Only,
Yeah.
right, in the audited annual financial statement.
Right.
And so that's what we're talking about now. Council.
If I could make one more comment. As the parent of a longtime CPA auditor, he would be horrified to find out anyone was trying to change their audit procedures, so.
That's the second issue.
Well,
let's-
no, statements shall include.
The list of the village investments.
Well, and in
Yeah.
fact, what we've just heard from Council Member Schaefer So then, on the question, which is made by Councilmember Schaefer and seconded by Councilmember Salt, to strike the language which is statements shall include a list of village investments. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment to strike that language, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say same sign. Aye. Let's take a vote just to clear the air. Take a roll call. Thank you.
Mr. R?
Yes.
For Mr. Musi?
No.
Against Mr. Schaefer?
4.
For, I'm for Tyler?
No.
Tyler against Ms. White?
No.
Against Hellstrom?
No. The motion fails. On to the second part of the proposal, which relates in section 11 to the second paragraph. As part of the annual audit process, village council members may propose areas of internal control for review. Is there a motion to support that? Okay. Is there a second? Hearing no second.
I'm sorry. I thought Mr. Schaefer, I was seconding, Mr. Schaefer made the proposal. Is that
Okay.
correct?
So you have,
Is that correct?
I'm
Yeah.
asking, Mr. Shaver, did you move that?
Yes.
Okay. And Councilmember Salt, you've supported it. Okay, so discussion?
Well, as I said, this just goes way beyond what should be part of an investment policy. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it shouldn't be something we codify in an investment policy.
Thank you. Councilmember Measy?
What is your reasoning in including this in the policy?
I included this because in other organizations where I have served on finance and investment committees, the standard practice has been to ask members of that governing body whether there are areas of internal control that they would like to have considered for review. It is a double check on the audit process, and it allows members who may have concerns about the financial affairs of the organization to suggest areas for internal control and for specific internal control review.
Got it.
Yeah, so obviously, as part of an audit, an independent CPA does an internal control reviews. That's all already part of an audit. To allow something on top of that is almost like proposing a consulting agreement, which actually creates conflicts for the auditor. You would sort of need a separate part of the accounting firm to do that and be walled off, and which obviously we have a very small CPA who probably couldn't do that. And as I said, it just increases the level of complexity and difficulty, which should not be, we can talk about it, just should not be something that is in our, that's a requirement of this policy.
So if I may, go ahead, Councilmember Salt.
I would just add that having a provision like this makes it very difficult to bid on the audit. And they have sort of like standard bidding practices by, you know, how complex, you know, what the size of the asset pools, et cetera. And this kind of throws that off. They can't use the standard protocols to bid.
So Councilmember R, and then I have a comment to make. Go ahead.
More on the language than the sort of underlying issue. So I'm a bit concerned about the use of the word propose, which suggests that there's a decision maker. I presume that that's intended to mean that individual village council members may add areas of internal control for review, or are these proposals being made to someone, to the treasurer, to the village manager, and how are the individual proposals being adjudicated?
The intent that I had in recommending this language is, as it states, to allow an individual council member who would be informed that an audit was going to be conducted, which I think is standard practice, that the council would be alerted that an audit is being conducted of the financial operations and statements of the village before that audit is conducted. a council member, understanding that an audit has been proposed and the contract will be let for an audit, can make a recommendation to the council that a particular area could be considered as part of that audit. And the auditor could respond to that proposal with, if necessary, an additional cost associated with it. Or, in fact, the federal rules that govern this enable different entities to look at different portions of an audit if, in fact, that need be. And if the council decided that it would be useful to have that area of internal control studied, the council could direct the village manager to include that in the contract, and when the bid goes out for the contract, we would get cost proposals about it. And then there could be a second touch by the village council as well to decide whether they thought the juice was worth the squeeze, if you will. Is there yes, Councilmember Sol.
Just, at least for discussion purposes at this point, if we crossed out as part of the annual review process and just made it village council members may propose areas of internal control for review, I would have no problem with it.
So, say that one again, please.
If the initial introductory clause was deleted and it just read, village council members may propose areas of internal control for review, that could be outside of the, you know, it doesn't have to be part, it's not necessarily related to the audit. If council members want to know that, they can propose this review at any time. And, you know, I'm not opposed to the review, I'm opposed to linking it to the audit, okay? So maybe that's another way to get where you want to go.
So let me ask whether Councilman Schaefer,
I would support that. And so I'll change my motion to just strike the, as part of the annual audit process. Because that's really where my objection is.
Oh, and I guess I'd say yes, I agree to that.
Okay.
Well, I hope so.
Is there further discussion about the motion, which is now to strike the first clause as part of the annual audit process and leave village council members may propose areas of internal control for review? Any further discussion? A call for the vote. All those in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. It sounds to me like that's a 7-0. Would you like a roll call vote on it?
As long as I understand that correctly, that's fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we're now back to the village investment policy, which has been amended twice. I think council members understand the amendments that, actually twice, sorry, understand the amendments that have been made. We're back to the vote on the village investment policy, and we'll ask whether there's any further discussion. Hearing none and seeing none, I'll call for the vote on the village investment policy as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
No.
I understand that to be 6-1. Would you like to do a roll call?
I'm sorry, you're
6
a
to
no?
1.
Who's a
Yes.
no? Okay.
Schaefer is a no.
Hold on a second, okay. So R is 4, Mizzi is 4, Schaefer is against, so is 4, Tyler is 4, White's 4,
Yes.
Pastrunk 4?
4.
Okay, thank you.
6-1, the motion carries. That takes us on to the approval of the lease for the Red House. Councilman R.
Thank you. Yes. Buckle up. It'll probably take me less time than it took us to negotiate it, so that's an upside. But I just want to start, and I will make this quick, but I do want to start by thanking, first off, the whole of the council for appreciating the need for expert support here, bringing counsel in to help us think through how to navigate the negotiation, but also kind of help us think through our priorities and objectives. And I'd also really like to thank council members Tyler and Schaefer for a lot of time invested here in helping think out loud, in reviewing versions of this lease, in spending time with our lawyer and with the village manager, and then also there was a lot of administrative work here, making sure, running down facts, making sure that what was written here reflected the facts on the ground, put us in a good position to communicate with the prospective tenant. And so I'd also like to thank the village manager and the rest of the team who were instrumental in getting the material here. I think we've ended up in a really good place. Our going in objectives were to ensure that the interests of the village, the financial interests, the community interests of the village were acknowledged and protected, but we also came in with the understanding that as an amenity of the village, the tenant will be a member of the community, and wanted to ensure that we got to a place of collaboration to ensure that the tenant in our space, in the village's space, was adding value to the village and also felt like the village was being supportive. I think we got to a pretty good place in that regard. In the highlights, you all have, and hopefully had an opportunity earlier this week to take a look at a near final draft. I don't think any changes were ultimately made between the version that was circulated to you all and what we're talking about today. So if you had a chance to look at it at any point this week, you're looking at the final version. We're looking at a 10-year base period with 4 5-year option periods. So we're making we are hoping to make a long-term commitment to what I think will be a wonderful addition to the community. I know we've talked about this before when this council authorized us to go forward in communication. But what we are looking at is a restaurant, a grocery, a gathering space, a community space. And so we are interested in the success of the tenant. We think a 10-year base period will give runway. The food service business is challenging under good circumstances. And with the uncertainty of the next few years in things like costs and the makeup of the community, we wanted to and kind of came to the agreement to maximize the likelihood of success here. We are looking at an initial rent, and this was sort of discussed, negotiated, and agreed on, so this shouldn't be a surprise, of $5,900 a month with shared responsibilities for renovation. We've already talked about those issues as well, identified a performer, mapped out the village's responsibility primarily for accessibility of the building to ensure that this amenity is available to all of our residents. We were interested and fortunately found a partner who was equally as interested in maintaining the character of the building, of integrating their product into the community in a way that respected the history of the space, the dynamics of the community. So we're not anticipating any significant exterior renovation except what's necessary to ensure accessibility for all of our residents. We had really good conversations about community outreach, about signage, about respecting the neighbors, the residents and businesses that surround the Red House. And so I think the communication has been good, and I'm optimistic, open to any of your questions, but optimistic that we've come to a place where I can strongly recommend that the council adopt this lease and authorize its signature.
And is that your motion, Councilmember?
That is my motion.
Is there support for the motion?
I second it.
Councilmember Tyler seconds the motion to approve the lease for the Red House. Is there discussion? Yes, Village Manager Mansfield.
Just wanted to point out we have the tenant with us here this evening. James
Thanks,
Walls is in the audience. Thanks.
Great. Welcome.
No pressure,
Thanks.
everyone.
Yeah. Is there any discussion about the lease?
Yes. It's not, I just wanted to mention that the contribution, more than the contribution, Dan really led this group. I'll take credit early on for suggesting that he do that. But yeah, it was really, I mean, we needed a lawyer to lead this group and someone who could be a little more dispassionate and work through some of the issues. Also that, since you're here, for your flexibility as well. And yeah, so I'm very happy to support this.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the lease for the Red House, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I understand that to be 7-0 in
Yeah.
favor of the lease.
And you're voting for?
I voted yes, too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So when do you plan to open?
Yay.
You can clap.
Yay, welcome.
Okay, so in light of time and moving us along,
Chairman, could I ask for a very quick break?
yes,
I just point out, according to the radar, the world's about to come to an end.
okay. So 5-minute break, if you will, and then back promptly, unlike some previous meetings. Thank you. Proposal for the new initiatives budget and recommendation from the Community Advisory Committee. And Village Manager Mansfield, Village Manager, I'm turning to you for the item on the new initiatives budget. Thank you.
Calm before the storm.
Literally.
Literally.
Okay, this is basically a carryover from last month's council meeting where the council considered a couple of proposals for the new initiatives budget, and you approved one for the File of Life cards. And this was the other one that was recommended by the Community Advisory Committee with the higher score. And there was some approval, some sentiment to approve this on behalf of the council at the discussion last month, but there were a couple of issues raised, one of which was insurance. And I'm not sure of the context that it would involve an insurance claim, but I did get some information from Evan Smith, and I want to thank him since he's right here, on behalf of FHNN, the Neighbors Network, with their insurance limits and the insurance coverages that they carry, which I included in the memo. And the proposal is to be managed and coordinated by FHNN, the specific proposal about end-of-life preparation and related individual sessions. So the total amount requested was $1,800, and the total amount left in the budget is $1,800 because the council approved $2,200 for the File of Life cards, which left $1,800 for this, which is what this request is for, to total the $4,000 that was budgeted. There was also some concern expressed about end-of-life choices and the curriculum. There's not a specific curriculum that's described here, but the proposal does include a description of the talk. It's essentially a series of talks by a speaker at Iona Senior Services. And one of the items discussed is end-of-life choices as allowed in several states and Washington, D.C. So that is part of what would be discussed.
So we did not, looking back at the minutes from our last meeting, we did not vote on this. Is there a motion to approve the proposal as described?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Measy, supported by Solt. Is there discussion?
I have a
Yes, to Mayor White and then Councilmember R.
I'm still opposed to this because of the element of physician-assisted suicide. It's still illegal in Maryland, as far as I know. And I think we have better things to spend tax dollars on than promoting this in the village or even explaining it. I look at the proposals for the grants that were submitted, and I think there are much healthier versions of things that we can spend money on. And for that reason, I'm opposed to this.
Thank you. Councilmember R.
I think the mayor's actually answered my question. My recollection from the discussion was that she was interested in getting some additional information in order to kind of make up her mind, and I just wanted to confirm that she had the information that she was looking for before we proceeded with this, so I'm good.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. The motion is to support the proposal on end of life as a new initiatives project for $1,800. Thank you. You're welcome. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I'll do a roll call,
Roll call, please.
Mr. R.
Yes.
For Mr. Measy.
Yes.
For Mr. Schaefer.
4.
For Solt. For Ms. Tyler. No. Against Ms. White.
No.
Against Mr. Pestrunk.
Yes.
4.
Motion carries 5-2. That moves us on to a discussion vote on the village property tax rate for fiscal year 2026.
Okay.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, I think we can do this quickly. So the Finance Committee unanimously recommends setting the rate for the condos and property and the personal property piece at 4 cents per thousand, which is the lowest that we're allowed, and that rate is already assumed in the draft budget. So I'll make the motion to set the rate at 4 cents per thousand. Again, 400. I it didn't sound right as I was saying. 4 cents per 100.
That would put us out of business.
Yeah.
I second the
So let me just make sure it's 4 cents per
$100 of assessed value. Yes.
per $100.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So there's been a motion made by Councilmember Schaefer and supported by Councilmember Mizzi to set the tax rate for 2026 at 4 cents per 100 in valuation. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I understand that to be 7-0.
That's what I have.
Okay. That moves us on to a discussion vote on the draft budget. Councilman Schaefer?
Okay, I know we're running behind, so I'll try to do this quickly. So this budget was unanimously approved also by the Finance Committee, 3-0. It projects that our revenue is sufficient to cover our day-to-day operating costs. It does not provide any surplus or excess revenue to pay for capital expenses. That is estimated at $560,000 for the coming year. That's sort of a one-off. A lot of that is to get the Page Park and the I'll just mention very quickly the areas that I don't personally agree with, and it's the future year projections. I wanted to trend the income at a slightly lower amount than the expenses, because that's in line with our history, where our expenses have grown faster than our revenue. It's also, I think, more of the reality of where the economy is, but it doesn't affect any actual expenditures, so I just wanted to point that out. And we've also, even though we are projecting capital expenses for next year, then we go back to not trying to project it. I think that's a mistake. I think we should make a good faith effort to include, acknowledging it's an estimate, but a good faith effort to include all of our anticipated expenses. So I would have preferred to do that for all 3 years. I will say that the Finance Committee did recommend, and this was 3-0, to undertake at work we call them CNAs, capital needs assessments, a comprehensive capital study of our future needs. We do have an aging infrastructure. We'll have the additional costs of maintaining the park and the Red House, so it would give us a better handle on what those expenses are. So that is a unanimous recommendation for the next council, and I'll leave it at that.
So
Thank you.
Councilman Schaefer, if I may, are you making a motion to
I'm sorry.
approve the budget?
Yeah, thank you. So I am making a motion to approve this draft budget, which was approved 3-0 at the Finance Committee.
Is there discussion?
Second. Mhm.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Schaefer, supported by Councilmember Salt, to approve the proposed 2026 budget. Is there discussion? Seeing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. I hear that as a 7-0 in favor.
That's how I've noted it.
The motion is carried. That moves us on to a discussion vote on a change order for a contract with Clark Azar for ADA compliance work at Page Park. Village Manager Mansfield.
Yes, we have actually a revision to this proposal that was received this afternoon and was circulated, and I want to thank Councilmember Solt for a question about this that I had been concerned about as well, that led to this revision. This is from Clark Azar, who is the contractor that is performing the stormwater management work for the village, and they are essentially taking over the ADA compliance work, as we've reported previously, following the architect's report that cited ADA deficiencies. The architect and Clark Azar mutually agreed that Clark was sort of better positioned to take this moving forward, and develop plans and work through with the county and DPS on final approvals. So this proposal covers the items listed in the architect's report, including designing compliant ramps from the sidewalk along the road into the site and to the patio, and also additional ADA items such as gravel paths and the stairs and the handrails, to basically develop the designs for this. So this is a change order to the existing contract for stormwater, because the existing stormwater contract did not contemplate any ADA renovations back when we approved that contract. So Attorney Ron Bolt has advised that it should be considered a change order and to be approved by the council, and there is a draft change order in your packet, language from Attorney Ron Bolt as an addendum to the contract.
So thank you.
Total cost is $4,500 for the change order, above the original contract price, which was $32,500.
Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Yes, motion to approve. Councilman Mizzi, is there support for it? Okay, Mayor White. Thank you. The motion to approve this revised contract with Clark Azar for ADA compliance work at Page Park has been moved by Council Member Mizzi, supported by Mayor White. Is there any discussion? Council Member Salt.
You shouldn't have thanked me so soon. What I expected is that every single item in the architect's report, and there are 16 items, would be addressed. And I don't see that at all. We need all of these addressed in order to move forward. We can't submit a new application to DPS without drawings for every single one of these things. So that's what I was hoping to see, and I think that's what we need. And to do dribbling a few at a time, I don't think helps us.
Is there, Council, Village
My
Manager?
understanding is this covers everything. There were some references to surveys that need to be done, which were done by Clark originally. That's several of the items in the architect's report refers to needing a survey, and the survey has been completed. And our communication back to Clark was that they should cover all these items. So I'm not aware of what's not covered.
Well,
Yes, go ahead. Council Member Schaefer and then
So-
Council Member Salt.
so why don't we just add wording that says they will incorporate all of the suggestions in Adam Green's report, and we don't have to go through all of the 16 items to see what,
That would be fine.
okay?
I just want to get approval to be able to
No,
move
I know, but
forward.
rather than, going one by one, just, he'll incorporate the entire report.
So then that's an amendment to the motion by Mizzi, proposed amendment to the motion by Mizzi and White. Is there support for that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Council Member Tyler, go ahead.
In going back to what Councilmember Salt just said and what Councilmember Schaefer just recommended, my question is, were the 16 items listed and provided to the contractor? Okay, so as long as that's there and he or she knows that, then I don't
Yes.
have a problem with that language.
Yeah, and they consulted about it several times, yeah.
Councilmember Mizzi and then Salt, and then Schaefer. Go ahead.
That doesn't have to be an amendment to the motion, because the motion, according to Julian, the change order has all the things that are of concern here.
So I reference it as an amendment because it's been proposed and
I know,
seconded
I
as an
understand.
amendment. I
But that-
understand what you're saying. Would the council members pull that amendment with the understanding that those requirements are already included?
Me, no, because I'm reading this and they're not.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
I'm looking
So-
at this and
so-
it's not. Mhm.
Okay, I'm asking
Yeah,
procedurally.
I know.
So, Councilman Schaefer, you had something, and then Councilman
No,
R?
I'm okay.
Okay, Councilman R?
I just want to confirm, so the initial proposal of 4,000 was only increased by 500 when I think at least the notional addition here was at least a dozen, probably more remediations. Do we have confidence that the initial proposal is so much more involved or expensive? I ask that because it seems to me that relatively small increase might be evidence that they don't fully appreciate what we're asking them to do here. Are there economies of scale that they're taking advantage of, or do you have any sense of?
I suspect so. I mean, the lion's share of this work is the reconstruction of the pathway. I mean, that's the biggest single issue. The pathway has to have 2 landings built into it. And there's also the potential of an additional ramp to the pergola. So, and I would add that we're still waiting on an attorney's opinion on that, and the attorney has been back and forth with Clark to get some clarifications on measurements in order to formulate her opinion. But I think those were the major items, and the other ones did not involve as much expense on behalf of Clark to develop the drawings.
Yeah, but all we're approving here is for them to design remediations, though, right? They're
That's
not
right.
actually doing any of the work,
No,
so it
this
seems.
is all design work.
Yeah.
And then we have to go present it to get a contractor to do the work.
Yeah, it just seems odd that designing a couple of landings and a walkway would be so much more expensive than 15 other items. So I just note that as, I think, further evidence that we should be as explicit as possible here and see if that changes the estimate.
Councilman Schaefer, did you have comments?
Yeah, but it's more of a question for Julie, so unrelated, so I can hold it.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve the contract with Azar for ADA compliance work. There's been a proposal by Schaefer and Salt to amend that to reference all of the architect's recommendations. So on the amendment first, all those,
I would say it a little differently. Change the wording to include all requirements noted in Adam Green's report, not just a reference. I'm sorry. A change order, or the final whatever we approve, will include wording to include or cover all requirements noted in Adam Green's report, not just to reference them, to incorporate them.
thank you, Councilmember Salt. Do you second that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I hear that as 7-0. The amendment carries on the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I hear that as 7-0. The motion carries. That takes us to a discussion and vote on the change order for the contracted green sweep for excavation and backfilling work for Page Park inspections. Village Manager Mansfield?
What is the measurement?
Yes, this one is related to the third-party inspections that we were required to do by the county DPS. There were 3 inspections, and we have an engineering firm lined up to do that. MTI, I believe, is the name of the engineering firm, and they require excavation and backfill of an area of soil near the pergola front wall, and green sweep is required to do that. The engineering firm indicated they do not do that type of work. So this is a proposal from Green Sweep to do the excavation and backfill related to the inspection for $1,500. And again, it's a change order from our original Page Park contract with Green Sweep.
Is there a motion to approve this change order for the contract with Green Sweep? To move to adopt it, that's correct. Is there a motion to adopt? I would so move. Okay. Moved by Pestronk, supported by Measy. Is there discussion? Yes, Councilmember.
Well, I'll start with a question. So this is presented, although I may have missed it, but I didn't realize this was being presented as a change order to the underlying contract. Okay. My understanding is that this is work that we are requiring, or that is required to be done because of the way this project was built out. We would need to be excavating for the inspectors to be able to take a look at the footings if we had done this in the appropriate order. The idea that our performer who put us in this position is now coming back for additional money to remediate an issue they caused gives me some pause here, particularly while we're in what I still think is a bit of a undetermined position with respect to the existing contract and the sort of our assumption of costs with an expectation that they will be negotiated at the end of this project. So I I guess maybe I'll ask the question this way. Did we suggest that they should submit a change order to do this work, or are they unilaterally proposing that we should pay them another $1,500 to essentially fix their mistake?
We met with the inspection firm and Green Sweep on site. The inspector indicated this is what he needed and he can't do it, and Green Sweep said we can do it. So that's how it happened essentially. And then once Green Sweep submitted this price, it becomes a change order. Normally I would just approve this, but it becomes a change order that requires council approval because it's a change order under the process that you have approved to the existing contract. But it has to be done, and the engineering firm doesn't do it. So Green Sweep was the logical one to do it.
Councilman R., any further questions?
I think I'll just observe that I think part of the reason we advocated for a change order process and these issues to come to the council is in order to address issues like this, right? That we have retained discretion to either agree to pay or not additional money to remedy these issues and to keep the project going. Again, I've got some concerns about adding to the amount that we, at least nominally, owe to this performer at a time when we're not sure how this is all going to get resolved, and where we've assumed other significant additional costs to keep this project going out of our own pockets at the moment. So I'm not terribly comfortable with this approach.
Other discussion, Councilman Schaefer?
Was Green Sweep just asked if they would do it? Just do it, because it is part of the normal getting the park approved.
Do it for free?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were asked. No.
What's that?
No, they submitted a cost for this.
But were they asked if they would just do it?
Yes.
And they said no.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so to get back to, we've been talking about maybe we'll withhold some money at the end or try to negotiate at the end. So to acknowledge that we owe them for this would not only undermine that argument, but I think it's just the idea that we're rewarding them for not doing this properly. I would rather, quite frankly, go to another contractor and let them have the work. And we're in our last year with Green Sweep anyway, so it might be a good opportunity to see what another contractor can do. But I think it's just, yeah, the idea that they get rewarded for not doing what they're supposed to do doesn't sit well with me either.
Is there further? Yes, Council Member Tyler.
I hear everybody's comments, and I understand the comments, and yes, it does bring upon question. My question is, how much more time and money is it going to cost for you to put an RFP out to go get somebody to do a $1,500 job, if that's what it's going to cost?
It's not an RFP. It's less than $20,000.
So how do we go and find?
I'd have to go find
You gotta
somebody.
go
We
do
don't
it.
have another
So
landscaper.
It goes to my time. Is it worth the time and effort of what you all have to do? And I think that's a council thought process of $1,500, just because we know, it's not denying it, we know that there are issues with the Green Sweep, and we know that's going to be there. But at this point in the juncture, now we're delaying a $1,500 situation because the architect can't do anything until this is done also.
Correct. I mean, I can find somebody, but yeah, this seemed like the most expedient way to keep this moving.
Is there further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Council
when
Member Schaefer.
is this work scheduled to be done, Julian? When is this work scheduled to be? When would
It's
Green
not
Sweep-
scheduled at all because we're still here figuring out
Right,
if we can do excavations.
So
there's,
if we
there's no
approve-
schedule until we have this lined up.
Right. So this work wouldn't be done by Green Sweep for at least a few weeks, I would imagine, if we hired them.
I don't know I don't know when they would be available, but
But-
the engineer is standing by and ready to go.
Okay. My point is, I don't think it's that hard to find another landscaper to do what is fairly routine work.
Is there further discussion? Councilman R.?
Based on our previous discussions about work maybe more appropriately done by Green Sweep, costs that we have assumed, and I think with the agreement of the council, that we have sort of delayed a decision on how those costs will be handled under the existing contract. Is the proposal here to accept the change order and add it to the overall bill to be adjudicated at a later date? Or is the expectation that this change order will be approved and funded immediately? Will this be part of the the remaining balance as yet unpaid? Will we just increase the remaining balance as yet unpaid by $1,500?
Am I being addressed these
Yes.
questions?
Well, sorry, Phil, you made your answer.
I guess my answer is you could decide to deduct it from the remaining balance as yet unpaid. You could say this. You could pay Green Sweep $1,500 now and say this comes out of the balance that's due. That's $190,000. But either way, we have to pay $1,500 or whatever the amount is to do the work. We're not going to find anybody to do this for free. So if it's another contractor, it's still a village expense towards Page Park. It's either Green Sweep collects this money or somebody else, and if Green Sweep collects it, you could decide now to deduct it from their final bill, such that it would end up being free.
I mean, arguably, if Green Sweep did the work now for no additional cost, they wouldn't actually be doing it for free, right? Because we've paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars to deliver this park. So
Right.
arguably, we have already paid them for this work. They just didn't do it properly, and now we're in this position. So it wouldn't actually be free.
No, it wouldn't be free, but it would
Yeah.
be deducted from the final balance. I mean, that would be one approach, or paying somebody else right now to do it.
Well,
So, one second, Councilman Schaefer, Councilman Mizzi, and then Tyler.
So that's the question, to go back to Daniel's original point. If we approve a change order, we are in essence saying we're paying for it. And
Yes.
if we don't approve the change order, by approving the change order, we're giving up the possibility, I think, of deducting it from the outstanding balance. So can we, I think the idea is to go ahead and have them do it, and not do it under the guise of a change order.
but that's what the contract says. It's a change order.
Councilmember Tyler.
It may not be expedient. I'm looking at dollars of how long we keeping up. The architect, his schedule, her schedule, whoever it is, until we find somebody to come in and say, oh, now it's going to cost you $1,655, or it's going to cost you $1,555. We're yes, $1,500 is a lot of money, but we're splitting hairs because we don't like Green Sweep. We're with Green Sweep. We're stuck with Green Sweep for certain things. The point is right now, how can we get something done without going overboard and without being so legalized on this particular situation? Because I guarantee you, there are going to be bigger situations for the other council coming in.
So, Councilman Schaefer, and then
Well,
Julian, sorry. Is there a response? Okay.
No, I mean, I didn't need to go out of turn, but my response to that is just to move this forward, I'd go find somebody else, and it's not a change order because it's a different contractor, and then we'll just get it done.
Okay, so Councilman Schaefer, and then
right, and
Salt.
And to get to that point, even if we paid another contractor $1,700, if we're keeping our right to withhold $1,500, it's not going to cost us more. But again, if we hire Green Sweep, as I think this is what Councilman Mizzi was referring to, we're kind of forfeiting our right to then withhold it. And just to be clear, we have no agreement in place with Green Sweep that they are acknowledging anything gets deducted from this final. Well, that's sort of maybe our hope, but there's no agreement in place that says that's going to happen.
Councilmember Salt.
There was some reference to possibly delaying things. I think we should be clear, if we get I'm not saying yes or no, but if we get another contractor for this, it does not delay opening this park because we don't even have the drawings for the ADA compliance to even send to the county. So let's put delay off the table and figure out what is, the right thing to do on this exact proposal.
Councilmember Tyler and then Councilmember Mizzi and then Tyler. And then if there isn't additional content in discussion, I'll simply call for the vote on the original motion.
Julian, a couple of questions. How difficult will it be to find somebody else to do this job?
I'm thinking of somebody right now as we speak.
Okay.
So hopefully not difficult at all.
Second-
And possibly cheaper.
Secondly, is there any concern that if they're doing this work around the construction that Green Sweep is responsible for, the pergola and all of the other stuff, is there any sense that that work is going to, the work that somebody else does is going to compromise the work that Green Sweep has already done, or?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, this is excavating dirt. This is not highly skilled work.
Go find somebody else, Julian.
It's digging dirt.
Let's go
Yeah,
start.
so actually, unless there's further discussion, I sense that I'm willing to retract my motion. Councilmember Mizzi, you are too. And we simply would direct the village manager to find another contractor. And for that contract, if it's under $20,000, it does not require council approval. The village manager can simply proceed
Post haste.
with the contract. And Councilmember Tyler?
I don't have a problem with it. My comment on delay was not delaying this. I just think we need to make sure, moving forward, that we look at each factor that's involved in a situation like this, where this one encounters two different companies. And so we want to make sure that when you make a decision, that it does not impact the other company as well.
Okay, so we don't need a vote.
No, go ahead.
The motion's been withdrawn. Village Manager Mansfield, you're directed to find someone else and proceed. That takes us on to a discussion vote on the plan for stormwater management rain gardens in Page Park. Village Manager Mansfield?
So this goes back to basically the original contract with Clark Azar for stormwater management, and this basically follows a discussion at Parks and Grounds Committee about the use of the circular area that was previously designated as a play area, and there hasn't been much discussion by the current council in this term regarding the use of this area, and that point came up as a point of basically of clarification needed with regard to stormwater. So we have two stormwater plans, and this is to locate 5 of these rain garden basins, which is required by the stormwater management rules by DPS. And so Clark Azar submitted an initial plan that placed the 5 areas that did not include the circular area, and then they submitted a second option that does include the stormwater, one of the rain garden basins in the circular area. So you should have a 2-sided sheet of paper that has the 2 proposals, and I've got an extra
And
copy. if
which
anyone
is
needs
which,
one.
Village Manager Mansfield?
Well, if you look at the center, you see on one side there's 2 that are right in the middle, and on the other side there's kind of 1 in the middle, and there's 1 sort of further away from the middle.
Yes, okay.
So the one with the 2 in the middle, the one on the left is in the play area. On the back side, you can see that the play area is left undisturbed.
Okay.
So if the council wishes to retain the play area for play equipment and not put a stormwater basin in there, you can choose that option, and then we would need to provide a ramp to the play area. If the play area remains a play area, it would need to be made accessible because it currently is not. Alternatively, you could place the basin in the play area. There would not be any room really for any equipment if you did that. And then you would not need a ramp to that area because it would be a rain garden basin only.
Okay, Councilmember Salt?
I move to adopt the plan that retains the children's play area.
Is there support for that motion? I'll second. Okay, so there's been a motion to support the proposal which retains the play area made by Salt, supported by Tyler. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so that would then obviously by necessity mean it's got to be made accessible, which is part of the architect, gets back to what the architect recommended. Okay.
Any further discussion? Council Member R.
So I wholly agree. I wonder though if we actually need to express our preference for that option or for a plan that leaves open the possibility of a play area, recognizing that we haven't yet seen how they're going to adjudicate the 16 items on the architect's list, and some of the solutions to those problems may create additional problems here, right? So I think there may be some tension between, or at least an open question about maximizing accessibility and maximizing or retaining the children's play area. I think my personal preference would be to find a solution that does both, but if I don't want to end up in a position where we are wedded to this particular map and that in some way restricts our ability to make the park accessible. So I suppose maybe what I'm proposing is an amendment to the motion that is, instead of adopting this plan, perhaps expressing our preference for this plan or expressing our preference for a plan that retains the option for a children's play area, something to that effect, so as not to give the impression that we're locked into this particular configuration.
Any further discussion? And go ahead, Village Manager Mansfield.
I didn't follow that. If they're asking us to lock into this current configuration, one or the other.
But I guess what I don't understand is how we can lock into this configuration if they're coming back with a plan that includes more sidewalks, more ramps, more platforms, potentially changes the structure of the park. They may say, actually, in order to make this accessible, we need to move one of these gardens in order to put a concrete platform there. I don't want to give them the impression that we're not open to a configuration that both maximizes accessibility and leaves open the play area.
Okay.
It seems early
I
to
think,
commit
yeah.
to a plan
Right.
while they're still doing work.
Well, they've submitted this
Design
as
work,
with the understanding that this is probably where they're going to be because the ADA work is not going to impact these very specific locations. They're all in landscape areas and grassy areas that are not going to should not be disturbed by ADA work, but it is a possibility, so yes.
And
understand.
I'm perfectly comfortable with this layout, so if they're willing to
they're-
say this is the layout,
And
then
they're coordinating both parts of this, so they will
Right.
be able to do that. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Chairman,
Yes.
do we still have this amendment on the table? Or?
Councilmember R has proposed it. It hasn't been seconded. Is there a second to his proposal? The proposal
you
is
could
to amend,
restate
to
it.
express a preference for a children's play area rather than to absolutely retain a play area.
Or commit to this specific configuration of gardens, but instead to express our preference for a configuration of gardens that retains space for a play area. Requirement, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll second it. Mhm. I'm sorry, could
Yes,
we
please.
get the language so
Councilman
I...
R, if you'd read it, because what I heard was express a preference, and then I heard another shout out, it's a requirement. So what's your motion, Councilman R?
So I guess to impose a requirement that a rain garden configuration include space for a children's play area. Maintain space for a children's play area. Yeah, yes. Maintain the current space for a children's play area.
Right.
I will second that. Mhm.
Okay, so what it actually suggests is that Salt and Tyler retract their original motion, and that what was an amended motion simply be the motion, and that's to impose a requirement that maintains current space for children's play area. Is that acceptable?
That's fine. Mhm.
Okay.
It's even better.
Yeah. And Julian, will that get them what they need to proceed with this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're going to have some flexibility to tweak these locations as needed. They've already indicated that. Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? Then I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
think
Hearing
it's
none,
all.
7-0.
Okay.
The next item is a discussion of the, yes? Go ahead.
Julian, I'm just, this report from the land use attorney has been delayed by weeks, and I'm not clear why she needs to speak to Azar. If the determination is the park needs to be fully accessible or it doesn't, I'm not sure how that opinion changes based on measurements or why she would need to speak to.
I guess
Azar.
it'll be in the opinion, but this is
So
something
you're not
she's-
aware of why she needs to speak to?
No, I mean,
Okay.
she asked if she can consult with Clark
No, I
Azar,
got it,
and I
but-
said
but
sure,
our-
but she's asking very specific questions about dimensions and measurements.
Okay,
No,
I'm just
I
sort
don't.
of trying to figure
I'm
out.
assuming it will be all laid out in the opinion.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So that takes us to the, yes, go ahead.
I looked back in my emails, something like August 2nd, 2024, I read that we were going to get this opinion next week. Why do we even need the opinion if we're committing to be fully ADA accessible? I think we should go forward with the architect's opinion and forget about this.
It was a long-standing request, so we're going to get it. But the council
like
can
when,
certainly
you know?
can certainly choose to do whatever they want with or without an opinion.
Okay, I'm going to move us on in light of time, and I'm also, which takes us to the Community Advisory Committee report on the Friendship Heights Sector Plan. I would suggest that in light of the hour, that this discussion be moved to the May council meeting.
Second.
Okay. All right. Is there, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. And there is one other item that was not announced initially that I will announce now for the agenda. We had an anonymous donor provide tokens of appreciation to the village council and staff. And either Village Manager Mansfield or Assistant Village Manager Goldstein, if you could bring those tokens in. And I think we could, without receiving them, thank the anonymous donor, who may in fact be listening. Okay, and then I would move adjournment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And I would make the meeting is adjourned, I'd make one comment, that I wish future chairs and council members a major storm alert in the middle of every council meeting to help move items along. Thank you. We're adjourned.